You are listening to the Urban Sports Scene with Wole and Ray, and we are part of Amplifier Media at amplifiermedia.com. All right, folks, it's time for HBCU Corner. We have a treat for you. Right now, we have the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Commissioner, Dr. Anthony Holloman. Hello, Dr. Holloman, and welcome to the Urban Sports Scene.
Thank you all for having me.
Yes, sir.
All right, so Commissioner Holloman, usually we ask a fun question. We love homecoming. It's one of our little themes here. So which SIAC school has the best homecoming?
The best homecoming out of the SIAC, I'm going to say Tuskegee University.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to be athletic director at Tuskegee, as well as Fort Valley. And Tuskegee, their atmosphere and environment, I think, is second to none. And so it'll be interesting because now they've redone their facility, they've upgraded their shed, and then they have a great band and great alumni. So I'm gonna say that Tuskegee has the best homecoming.
I like the answer because you weren't being PC with it. Usually folks are like, I understand, they're not trying to step on toes. Or like, I'm not sure which, what institution to call out for the best homecoming. But I'm glad you picked one. I'm happy about that.
Can I jump in? Go ahead, Dr. Holloman. I'm sorry.
I think the interesting thing for me is that I've worked at 9 HBCUs in 7 states. So I have great perspective.
Yeah.
But to have a great homecoming, you probably have to have great football. So,
hold up now. We ain't my school ain't got football.
We don't. We don't.
Go ahead though. You got it. Because I'm not going to necessarily be biased in this one, but you got some experience, like you said. That's why I was going to jump in and ask you, when you were a student, who had the best homecoming back then, just HBCU in general?
So as a student, I'd have to say South Carolina State.
Really?
I'm from South Carolina. I played football at Johnson C. Smith. And, South Carolina State was always, strong in the MEAC and have a great tradition, but they have a great band as well. The Marching 101, was a sight to behold. And so they have a great homecoming when I was coming up.
So Dr. Holloman, what's your favorite sport? Sound like football.
It does now. I know, right?
So I will tell you that football is my favorite sport, but my favorite sport to watch is basketball.
Okay.
If I could play, then I would be dangerous. I would like to be a basketball player because they can see you, and it's the confined environment. When you play football, you got a helmet on, and there's a lot of people on the field, so you can't really necessarily see who's doing what. But I love to watch basketball and go to basketball games. But as a football student athlete, I love football as well.
One more quick question.
Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead, Ray.
So just to give you some background on us, we're located in like the DC, Maryland area. And Bowie State is pretty big around here. What's your thoughts about them? Is that some school you rival?
I have a Bowie State story that is triumph and tragedy. We played Bowie State in 1989, second game of the season, a competitive game. And, I thought I was playing well. And I ended up getting hurt and having my shoulder separated and to go to Prince George's County to the hospital. So one of my roommates was redshirting, and so he went to the hospital with me in the ambulance, and he was just dying. He was just giving me the business because, a dislocated shoulder is a painful thing, and they hadn't reset it. So you know, every bump I'm jumping and he's just giving me the business. And so once the game was over, the team came to pick me up and I had to sit on the cooler and ride home 6 hours to Charlotte. So, you know, I'm like, I don't never want to go to Bowie State.
On the cooler, I can't. That ride to Charlotte is long. It's short but long at the same time. I don't know why.
No,
It's even
you
longer
know,
right there.
it's amazing, you know, having to sit on a cooler in the aisle because, you know, I couldn't, you know, get comfortable, you know, sitting in a seat. And so, you know, I think I was, you know, playing really well. And then all of a sudden, so I missed 4 weeks of the season before I was able to get back. But now when I got back, I was balling. I think I had an interception in 5 straight games.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, my sophomore year, you know, was a up and down year because the injury put me out for a period of time. But, you know, Bowie State was good and, you know, they've gotten to be where they are, you know, a power, not only in the CIAA, but Division II. And so they're a great representative of HBCU football.
So coach, the commission, it's like who were some of the dudes in terms of in HBCUs or even in your conference back then that were like the guys in football?
Now football in the CIAA in the late 80s, early 90s, man, you had Ben Coates, who went on to a great career with Patriots.
Yeah, I remember.
Robert Massey was a second-round draft pick out of North Carolina Central. Yancey Thigpen became the highest paid receiver in the NFL. He was a 4th-round pick out of Winston. You had a couple of guys that I played with, Donnell Johnson and Joe Weinberg, you know, who made NFL rosters, Greg Clifton as free agents. You know, so you had great football being played in our league at that time. And so it was amazing to kind of be a part of what was going on. You had Terrence Warren, Johnny Barnes from Hampton, you know, who were ballers. Quarterback from Central, you know, was a great player at that time. Then you had Steve McNair emerging from the SWAC.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
You know, so it was a great time, you know, in Black college football. You know, I think the difference now was that the options that young people have, because you didn't have the proliferation of the mid-major programs taking student athletes from HBCUs. So if you weren't at a Power 5 type school, you were in the HBCU realm. And so now you have, you know, the Georgia Southerns, the Appalachian States, who are not Power 5, but they still, you know, have significant resource advantages to some of our schools. And so, you know, they get the kids that are that next level of athlete.
No, that makes sense. I mean, Robert Massey, he played for the Detroit Lions, right? Am I correct about saying that?
So New Orleans drafted him.
Okay.
And I think Massey played for a couple of teams.
Okay.
So, like, we played those guys my freshman year. My freshman year, I ended up making a CIAA rookie team and Black college freshman All-American.
Oh, that's dope.
And so I'm getting down to the last game and, you know, I'm a punt returner and I'm like, you know, no matter how they kick it, I'm not fair catching it. So we play in Central and it's a real competitive game, great crowd. And so it's blowing rain. And so I make the bad decision of not calling fair catch. And so Massey's coming, on my left, and I see him out the corner of my eye, but I'm a shake him. I shook, and the ball shook the other way. And so, of course, I'm trying to find the ball. And so, I fumble in their territory, and they go on to score, and they beat us 33-24.
Oh.
And so I'm walking off the field, and my coach, rest in peace, Horace Small, was like, it's contagious. Don't stand near him. So he makes me stand on the sideline by myself.
Ooh.
And all the other players walk down, and, of course, you're embarrassed. But it ended up being like, a really great freshman year, except for the one play that, I just misjudged that I was actually having a guy bearing down on me that was actually an NFL player. He was a step faster than maybe somebody else. The collision. But, those were the kinds of experiences that we had. And so I'm leaving another guy that, of course, ended up being a Pro Football Hall of Famer. We played Shannon Sharp in Savannah State freshman year as well. And so Shannon was returning punts for Savannah State. And so I'm the gunner going down on the punt team. And, I was a defensive player, so the mentality is to mix it up. So I'm running, and so he's going out of bounds. He is easing up because, he's not going to get hit. Tackle him anyway. And so I get a 15-yard penalty. So I'm running him back because I tackled him on his sideline.
Yeah. I'm
running back to my sideline. And so my coach, Jack Bush, he was a defensive coordinator. He said, "You're 120 pounds soaking wet, but I like it." I was like, I'm going to hit him. I'm in the game. And so I was familiar with Shannon because his brother Sterling was in South Carolina.
Yeah.
You knew who he was. And so I'm like, man, I'm going to get me a lick in. The head coach was looking at me like, "Boy, are you crazy? You know he was out of bounds." I didn't worry about it. So, I was the kind of player, I won't say I like discipline, but I always thought that football was a physical game. And even though I was on the smaller side, I prided myself on being physical. And so, I just played beyond the whistle.
Commissioner, I can already tell we would be best friends. I'm really enjoying this. We could be best friends. I love your mentality. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love your mentality.
Yeah.
And we could talk ball with you all day, but let's get into some actual SIAC talk. All right, so you're relatively new as commish of the SIAC. You started in September of 2022. What have you learned? What have you learned so far being the commish of the conference?
That there's always opportunity, and so my job is to advocate for the SIAC and our student athletes. And so, my main focus has been to enhance the student athlete experience. And so we've tried to do that by modifying our football schedule initially. We eliminated divisional play. We've worked on a 4-year composite. I want to create more competitive balance. I want to see all of my teams have a chance to win the conference championship. So you'll play 4 games at home, 4 away, and you'll play everybody in a rotating cycle. So you'll play in each stadium in a 4-year career. And for me, I believe that makes football in the SIAC better. You still have the powerhouses like Tuskegee, Albany State, Miles, who have dominated play for the last 10 years. But I want everybody to play everybody so that we match the two best teams up at the end of the season.
Awesome. Awesome. So what would you say is your long-term goal for the conference?
So long-term goal is for us to be the #1 Division II conference in the country, irregardless to league size. We want to generate revenues that we can have revenue sharing with amongst our member institutions. We want to continue to have media rights deals and apparel deals that put us at the forefront of Division II. We want to compete for national championships, and we want to have broad representation on national committees so that we can shape the governance structure for Division II athletics. We are also in the space of emerging sports. We've added men's volleyball. And so we're going to be proactive in opportunities that we pursue that I give student athletes in the SIAC a great opportunity to be successful. And we want to prepare them for life after sport.
Man, you just gave the answer to my next question. That's why I put my hands over my face. I'm like, wow. Because I had a quote from Reginald Ruffin from Tuskegee, who basically said that's the goal, and he felt like you was the right person to lead the conference in that direction. So I was going to jump ahead. I mean, being that you're just starting out, how long do you expect for it to take your vision to come to fruition?
You know, we're on a relatively short cycle, and I'd say 24 to 36 months.
Oh, wow.
Because you want to, you know, get your revenue up so that you can implement some of these ideas. But I've had an advantage coming into this position because I was the chair of the AD's Council prior to being named commissioner. So I had some idea of what we were up against, what the opportunities and strengths were, and our vulnerabilities. And so what I jumped in and addressed was things that we could do immediately. You know, I challenged my colleagues to be the best they can. I'm challenging them to be engaged. And those that I know who have the capacity to lead, I'm pushing them to take ownership of what we're doing. And so Coach Ruffin is one of those people. I've known Reginald since I was AD at Tuskegee, and he was the defensive coordinator. And so we had lots of conversations 10, 15 years ago about what we saw for ourselves in the future. And so Ruffin was always a leader. So even as defensive coordinator, he was responsible for travel and scheduling for Tuskegee, and he took that same initiative to Miles and made them a perennial championship contender. And so he's gone back to Tuskegee, and they've, you know, won the women's basketball championship. They played for football. They played for softball. They played for tennis. So, you know, he has them at the forefront, and they are a flagship institution for the SIAC.
So I've heard your love for football throughout this entire interview so far. And I want to talk a little bit about basketball because your alma mater, of course, you got some CIAA experience, and you already know the tradition of the CIAA tournament is big. I know moving into Baltimore, one of the big, was one of the most favorite things for some people. Anyway, I'm not talking about them. We're going to talk about y'all. Right. How do you get your tournament, your basketball tournament to that level where people from all over the country want to come see your schools and institutions play?
So that's one of the things that, you know, we are evaluating and working on how we build our brand and our basketball term. But I think more than not, you have to create an atmosphere where you get buy-in from individuals from all of your member institutions. And so we're looking at creating host committees in the cities that we're looking at making our home. We're trying to make sure that we put out RFPs that make sure people know what we need. You know, when you come to a city, we want investment in the city. We want them to work with us with the convention and tourism bureaus, the sports councils, so that we can make it easy for people to come by capping the price for hotels, making sure they make all of their city facilities available so that we can have career fairs, job fairs for our graduates, and entertainment that is attractive to people. And so I think the basketball piece will take care of itself, but I think you have to have the ancillary events that are attractive, that are thoughtful. I think you have to make it inviting, where people come to town, they are comfortable with how their money is going to be spent and how it's going to be reinvested into our leagues and our communities.
So Commissioner, what would you say would be the biggest obstacle for you to achieve your mission or your vision?
You know, I think the biggest obstacle is you have the stability or lack of stability of your institutions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are at a critical inflection point where our institutions and HBCUs are very popular, but then you also have to look at the decrease in student enrollment for all colleges. And so you have to have strong, stable institutions that can invest the dollars that it takes to create competitive programs.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not funding your programs, then the product is not going to be where we want it to be at. And so that could be one impediment to what we're trying to do. But, you know, my goal is to help by generating resources that can be shared to our member institutions. And so that's my job. You know, I came to the SIAC having served as vice president for advancement at Fort Valley State, South Carolina State, Jackson State, and Wole and Stillman. Mm. So I have a background in resource development. And so I'm trying to bring a business acumen to all that we do. And then I'm highly motivated to see us be the best. You know, the beauty of it is working with Jackie McWilliams, Charles McClellan, and Sonia Stills. You know, we have a great partnership where we are trying to advance the collective vision of the four power, but at the same time, we are also advocating for our member institutions. And so my job is to put the value proposition of the SIAC institutions at the forefront.
Love it.
See, Commissioner, it's like I gave you my script or something because you just asked, like you just answered my other question. Right. He's answering another question, but I guess I can tailor it a different way then. You mentioned working with the other HBCU commissioners. Like Ray and I, we always believe that, you know, if everybody worked together, I think the goal could be achieved much faster. Like I think right. Ray and I, we totally agree with that thought process. But in terms of, say, I'll use basketball as an example, you know, you see it, you know, in the Power Five, they have these conferences where it's like the Big Ten tournament or Big Ten Big East tournament or like right. some type of thing. Yeah. Like, can you envision, you know, yourself working with some of these HBCU commissioners, these other HBCU commissioners to have developed something like that?
So, you know, we are having ongoing discussions. I was on with Commissioner McWilliams at 10:30 this morning. We are laying out the blueprint for CIAA and SIAC partnerships in multiple sports, because one of the things that we understand that we strengthen each other by creating a competitive balance. So
Great.
as opposed to playing some of the other Division II conferences, we play each other, then we are ensured to have strength of schedule and those kinds of metrics that the regional ranking committees, subscribe to. And then we have the value of traditional rivalries, where we have fan bases that will support us because the SIAC has led Division II in football attendance 16 consecutive years. So we know that, Jackie CIAA has strength in basketball, we have strength in football. And so we want to leverage that because I think they are sponsors and media rights partners that are interested in those contests. So we're going to try to make deals that make sense, working with each other, because I'm rooting for them as long as I'm not playing them. When we play them, again, we're rooting for success, and I'm hoping that my institutions come out on top. But I see that as something that is long overdue. And the beauty of it, we're trying to replicate the success they're having with the SWAC MEAC Challenge, the Celebration Bowl. We had the Pioneer Bowl, but we're looking at bringing it back in, maybe, a different format. But those discussions are ongoing. I think one of the things that is really positive, we have partnerships with the NFL, the NBA, PA, that are also working with us, supporting us, and creating platforms. You have the NFL Hall of Fame game that will be played Labor Day weekend. Morehouse will be playing Virginia Union. And so, that's a iteration. And so now if we can find commonality where multiple SIAC and CIAA schools will play, I think there's a ton of synergy for those matchups. And, we are going to do what's in the best interest of the Power Four. And, it's amazing that you have, Charles McClellan now as the chair of the men's NCAA basketball committee, a first time for Commissioner AD from an HBCU league. Jackie McWilliams has been commissioner of the CIAA almost 11 years. And so Sonia and myself are kind of the new kids on the block. And Sonia's at the MEAC 20 years. So I'm not beyond asking questions and guidance and getting feedback, so that, I can make good decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like your answer and what you said, it brings so much hope. You know what I mean? Like I know our listeners will enjoy that because I think the whole thing about just getting everybody to work together, like could make everything we can achieve so much if everybody works together. You know what I mean? And I just by hearing that you're working with the other HBCU commissioners, I think it's amazing, especially you just saying like you spoke to one this morning. I think that's great.
That's the one thing that, has been great for me in my short tenure. Like I was very fortunate. I took the job August 1st. My first day was September 1st, but in late August, I traveled with Sonia, Charles, and Jack to the NFL headquarters on the West Coast. Got the indoctrination of being able to be in their presence with meetings with Troy Vincent, Art McAfee. And so it gave me a good appreciation for what we were doing, the opportunities that were available to us. And so it was amazing. We did a segment with Steve Weich,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
NFL Network.
Yeah,
and so, we had this round table, and I think I had 2 questions that I answered in the 30-minute segment.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did the replay, like both questions that I answered were things that they showed. I was like, wow, great editing. Because if they put on the whole interview, I was much more of a spectator than a participant. But it was just me trying to understand, exactly what we were doing, and the lay of the land. And so, over these last 9-10 months, I've gotten a good grasp on, what the landscape is and the NCAA, how our institutions are impacted positively, and what I can do to be effective in my role.
Well, Commissioner, in terms of, obviously there's but so many, commissioner seats in all of, college sports. How to you, what does it mean to you to be a HBCU commissioner? What does that mean to you?
So, being a graduate of Johnson C. Smith, my kids are graduates of Tuskegee, Jackson State, Alabama, A&M, and Stillman College. We are committed to the success of our institutions. HBCUs produce 20% of the African Americans with a bachelor's degree, while only enrolling 3% of our institutions. And so sports is the front door to our access to mainstream. And so to have this opportunity and this responsibility, I don't take it lightly. I always thought that I would be a HBCU president. So my career took me through multiple turns and iterations. I, was vice president for advancement since 2010. I was athletic director at Tuskegee in 2009. And then at Fort Valley, I had the opportunity to do both jobs for 4 years. And my dissertation was the perceptions of effective leadership by current and former presidents of HBCUs. And so I've studied our institutions and leaders. And so I have the awesome responsibility of leading in a form that I didn't see coming, but there isn't any job that I would rather have than being the commissioner of the SIAC. And I'm going to work hard to elevate our league to preeminence.
Well, thank you, Dr. Holloman. Before we let you go, is there anything you would like to add? Because this has been great. Honestly, this has been one of our better interviews. We've kind of enjoyed this.
Well, I just want to commend you guys for being in this space, because we cannot have enough people telling our story, advocating for our institutions, because the reality of it is we do have a place in the fabric of the NCAA. We've been, fortunate that we've had institutions that have produced all-time greats in all of our sports, and to be recognized and celebrated, I thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Ray, you want to add, right?
I've been keeping my promises to folks I interview. when I say I'm gonna travel, I'm going to travel. My family's from South Carolina, Emmett, South Carolina. You know, so
Okay.
you got to bring me back. And I promise I'm gonna come back. And I've been hearing since high school that Benedict got the best food. I don't know if that's true, but
Well, hey, Benedict and their president, Dr. Artis, athletic director Willie Washington, and Coach Chennis Barry, they got it going on.
Mhm.
It was 11-0 this past year, #1 seed in the Southern region. And you let me know, and I'll make sure that I'm in Columbia the weekend. You show up in Columbia, and we'll have it all out.
Let's go.
There you. Well, thank you so much.
And let me say this, if I could.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Please join us on July 12th for Football Media Day in the SIAC, as well as the SIAC Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It will be held at the College Football Hall of Fame, and will be the first Hall of Fame induction since 2014. So that was one of the things that I committed to do when I took this position, that we're going to celebrate those SIAC legends, and we're going to do it on an annual basis. And so we have organized this celebration in conjunction with our Football Media Day. And so we will list the inductees, release the names later this week. So stay tuned.
And will this be on the website?
We can be looking for information.
It'll be on the website, and there'll be a press release. The release with the dates has already gone out, but we wanted to hold the names of the inductees to have a singular press release about the Hall of Fame.
All right, folks, you look out for it. Look out.
Well, let's do it, man. We gotta get back on the road.
Oh, you already know, man. Another road trip. It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Sounds like it.
Open invitation. Look forward to seeing you guys in person. So just let me know.
Oh, we definitely will. Definitely. Sounds like a plan, right? Definitely sounds like a plan.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being on HBCU Corner. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a blessed one.
You too.